Happy Friday. Welcome to Live Impact News, 9 a.m. on your Friday morning as we get ready for our weekend. I'm Julie Kay. Lots to get to today. National headlines, local headlines. We're going to get to your forecast in a little bit. But we want to start with something that we've been talking about for a few days now. Really important, not just all over the state, but it's putting a lot of national attention on North Carolina here. And that is the newly unveiled redistricting plan from our General Assembly here in North Carolina. Got this news out of Raleigh a couple days ago that Republican lawmakers were considering doing this, and we just got that new proposed map unveiled, I believe, last night. So we're going to get to our expert, Dr. Michael Bitzer, who is everyone's favorite political expert at this point. He's here all the time, professor from Catawba College. Dr. Bitzer, thank you for doing this.
It's great to be with you. Thank you.
Well, so for people who don't follow politics as closely as you and I do, what do people need to know about this redistricting plan?
Well, this North Carolina new congressional map is part of the national redistricting war. We've seen states like Texas redraw their maps to pick up 5 Republican seats in the U.S. House of Representatives. California is responding. They're going to have a referendum that the voters are going to vote on and potentially pick up Democratic seats. And North Carolina is just part of this race in redistricting to try and determine who can control the U.S. House of Representatives next November. And so what we saw in the new map that was released late yesterday was basically a flipping of the first congressional district that tended to be in the northeastern part of the state. It picked up more Republican counties. It swapped with the 3rd congressional district, and that 1st congressional district that was the target was a 50-50 district. It is now a 54%, by my measurements, Republican district, meaning it is probably going to flip from Democratic control under current incumbent Don Davis to Republican control.
Now, when we talk about, I want to get to the impact here in North Carolina, but you mentioned just this is kind of a national redistricting war and that this looks different in every single state. So California, the voters will get to decide on a referendum. Here in North Carolina, that process is very different. I know that the public comment period is open, but voters will not get a say in this necessarily.
Correct. This is purely a General Assembly state legislative action. The governor has no veto power over redistricting legislation. That was part of the package back in the mid-1990s when North Carolina decided to give its governor the veto power. They explicitly excluded redistricting legislation from that veto power. So all the General Assembly has to do is have a majority in the state house and the state senate to pass on this particular map. And Republicans have close to supermajority status. So this will be the map that will come out of the legislature probably sometime next week.
Now, we have seen redistricting happen pretty recently in North Carolina, particularly with congressional districts. I know that we used to have more of an even 7-7 split. That changed in 2023. So is that pretty unusual at this point to have so many congressional redistricting back to back to back?
Well, North Carolina is fairly unique in terms of going back to the 1990s. North Carolina has never had a complete set of maps. U.S. House, North Carolina State House, or North Carolina State Senate survive a 10-year period. So we are very accustomed to these redistricting in the middle of a census decade period. But this is basically new for North Carolina because all of those past redraws of maps were court ordered. This one is purely political in terms of trying to beef up Republican seats and take out a Democratic seat because of the politics of what we will likely see in next year's midterm elections.
Now, this would move our split from, like I mentioned a couple years ago, it was more 7-7. We have 14 congressional representatives here in North Carolina. I believe now it's 10 Republicans, 4 Democrats. This would change probably 1 seat to be 11-3. Now, of course, that impacts the northeastern counties. We're closer to the western side of the state, more middle side of the state, but that still impacts us because this potentially could impact everybody if the congressional split at the national level changes, correct?
Most definitely. And, by all accounts, this seems like the district will flip from Democratic control to Republican control. If you take all of the elections statewide across North Carolina in 2020, 2022, and 2024, the major elections, president, U.S. Senate, North Carolina governor, add them all up across the state, North Carolina is literally a 50-50 state. But after this map gets passed, and most likely after next year's midterm elections, it will be 11 Republicans and 3 Democrats. This is the power of partisan gerrymandering when it comes to redistricting.
I'm glad you mentioned that North Carolina is such an interesting state in that regard. We have it on our website too, the breakdown of each of these districts that will be impacted and who they voted for in the past election, both at the governor level and the presidential level. And it's kind of split all over the place. This is a split ticket state oftentimes. Yeah. And I know that this is going to really impact how North Carolina is represented. I am curious what the Democrats are going to do. I know you said that there isn't much because the Republicans have close to a supermajority, but we've talked about Representative Don Davis, who is the target here. I have a quote from him. He told RAL, families across eastern North Carolina are struggling and feel that Washington, D.C. is broken. I understand these concerns all too well, and goes on to say that politicians should be focusing on fixing bigger problems. That's kind of the Democratic response I've seen. Is there anything they can do in terms of stalling this vote? Anything that you expect from the Democratic side?
I don't think in the General Assembly next week there will be any real power that the Democrats have to stop this particular legislation. It would not surprise me in the least if once this legislation is passed, you have a lawsuit. And particularly, it will probably be a racial discrimination lawsuit. The key question regarding that is there's currently a case that was heard by the U.S. Supreme Court this week that could potentially gut the Voting Rights Act of 1965, take that out of the equation, and really give legislatures across the country the ability to draw districts without having to draw what's called a majority minority district to help minority voters elect one of their own. I think once that decision is handed down, probably early next year, you may see another another round of redistricting going on. I don't know if North Carolina would necessarily do that because we have a March primary. Candidate filing is in December. So it's kind of a tight window here to get this done. But most likely we will see a lawsuit filed over it. Where that goes is really dependent on what the U.S. Supreme Court will decide in that Louisiana case.
Do you anticipate that that Supreme Court case may impact southern states a bit more?
I think it will have a direct impact across the southern region. One analysis by the New York Times yesterday basically looked at it, and if they went with the most aggressive redraws across the South, you could see potentially 12 Democratic seats flip to Republican seats with any kind of redrawing in a number of southern states. So I think that this is going to be the potential that we will see next year, maybe the year after the 26 midterm elections, but then we'll be coming up on 2030 with a new census and then another round of redistricting after that. So I would just say to folks outside of North Carolina, if they're watching, welcome to what North Carolina has experienced over the past 40 years.
And speaking of North Carolina, General Assembly has some other big things going on that are kind of at a stalemate right now. They're going back and doing this with no budget. We are well past the budget deadline. Have you any thoughts on any headway that you expect them to make, or do you think we'll be at this stalemate for a while?
It feels almost like we're at the national level as well. You know, the national government has been shut down with no continuing funding options. North Carolina continues to operate, but it's on the past year's worth of budget, so government does stay open. But it feels like the two are just kind of locked in terms of where they are. At the national level, it's very much Republicans versus Democrats. Here in North Carolina, it's fairly unique in that it's North Carolina House Republicans versus North Carolina Senate Republicans. And that's where the stalemate and the dynamics are really at play here in this state.
Lots going on, both at the national level and the state level. Dr. Bitzer, anything else you think people need to know about what's going on right now?
I think certainly just stay tuned. I mean, there will be continuations of change going on in American politics and certainly in North Carolina politics. So I just encourage everybody, stay on top of the news as best you can.
And Dr. Bitzer, get some rest. I'm sure you're going to be busy for the next couple of weeks. Lots going on, but we always appreciate your insight. Thank you for doing this.
My pleasure.
All right. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in 2 minutes, and then we're going to get to some more local headlines, including your forecast. Stick with us. Welcome back to Live Impact News. Once again, happy Friday. And it is a happy Friday because it was a nice morning. Majestic Storm is here with the rest of your forecast. Majestic, I'm going to be going to the mountains tonight.
Ooh, fun.
Leaf peeping time, I hear.
Yes.
But good weather, too, so far.
It's going to be so nice. I'm going tomorrow. Where are you going?
I'm going to Asheville.
Okay.
Where are
I'm
you
going to Blowing Rock.
Oh, amazing.
Oh, you're actually going to go to Bowling Rock. Like
Yes.
we talked about yesterday. It's great.
I'm excited,
It's a
but
cute little
Ben
town.
keeps on telling me that the traffic there, he's like,
Yep.
it is a real
here
thing.
for it.
People really want to see the beautiful fall colors,
didn't
and
think
I
about
think you just
that.
got to have the mindset that sure there'll be some traffic, but it'll be worth it. You got to just roll with it.
We're gonna come back with some great pictures on Monday.
Yes,
Yeah, you
yes.
just gotta be patient.
I'm excited. Did you guys notice that it's cool outside
Yes,
this morning?
you
Would you say
warned
cool
me.
or cold? What
It's
would you
Chilly
say?
Willy, like I said.
Oh, Chilly
It's
Willy.
Like Chilly Willy. I vote
Okay.
for Chilly Willy.
Okay, well today we actually are the coolest that we've been so far this whole
Ooh.
season.
I put out my Uggs. I have my Uggies on.
Let me see.
I got my Uggs.
I can confirm it is.
Bam.
Ooh.
Uggs. I'm very
And she's
flexible.
flexible. That was like straight
Guys,
to the ceiling.
Peel back the curtain here on Live Impact News.
I wasn't
I'm
prepared.
Flexible. So I have to warn people before I do that.
Clutching my pearls, Kelly. My
That
goodness.
is hilarious. I'm so glad that you took my advice, though.
I did.
So we were watching it, and then just after 7 o'clock, we officially hit 48 degrees. Previously, our coolest day was October 10th, and we were at 51. So today, cooler, 48 degrees this morning in Charlotte. I'm just looking at one of my maps, 33 in Boone.
That's nuts. I
cold.
complain about Chilly Willy. 33.
That's
It's
about
downright
freezing.
cold.
Yeah.
I don't have a fun adjective for that. That's just cold.
No,
It is
it's
cold. But now the sun is out. It's going to be a gorgeous day. So let's take a quick look at the forecast. We'll just really detail out what you need to be ready for this upcoming weekend because it's going to be so nice. We're talking about clear skies and sunshine really from sunrise to sunset through our hourly forecast. Again, little cool this morning, crisp for a nice fall day, but at least we have that sunshine, and the sunshine's going to warm us up really nicely. We should see those daytime highs climb right into around those mid-70s this afternoon. So even as the kids are coming home from school, it'd be a good day to send them outside to play, maybe go for a walk with them, go to the park, do all the things, because today truly is going to be one of those days where even if you work from home, you might want to just sit outside. Let's talk about the rain chances because we don't have any rain, not today, that's for sure. We're hardly going to see any cloud coverage out there whatsoever, but we could see some passing rain showers on Sunday. And it's because we're watching this really strong cold front. It's going to be moving across the mid-south, bringing a round of severe storms, specifically on Saturday. That's really going to be impacting Arkansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, parts of Texas, Louisiana. And so we could see tornadoes, strong damaging winds, even large hail for them. But that strong cold front, once it reaches the Carolinas, it just doesn't have a lot of energy with it. It kind of breaks apart. So in one regard, that's good because we don't need any severe weather, but in the other, we could use a little bit of rain. And right now, we only have about a 40% chance for those rain showers, so not a whole lot. And remember, that means we think 40% of our viewing area will actually get some rain showers. So a lot of you actually won't see any rain. Let's take a look at the weekend weather forecast. If you're heading out to the pumpkin patch, again, 81 degrees tomorrow. It is going to be a warm one. Still so beautiful, clear skies, sunshine, whether you're heading out to the pumpkin patch, grabbing some pumpkins, maybe you're going to get some mums, or you just want to do something fun outside. There's a lot of things going on this weekend. It's going to be really nice. Now, Sunday, it's going to be cooler into the low 70s. However, don't be afraid of the rain because this is not a washout day. This is not widespread or heavy rain. If you get rain, it's not going to last very long. You might want to keep the umbrella handy if you don't want to get wet if those showers do pop up. But there'll be quick moving rain showers, and then really the rest of our weekend looks nice. And I mean, I'm just excited for some sunshine. It's going to be fantastic, and I'm looking forward to cooler temperatures too. I like the cooler weather.
I do too.
Yeah.
It's time for it. I have my pumpkin drink.
There
I've
you
got
go.
a sweater on. I'm ready for it.
It's that time of the year where it's like sweater in the morning, and then in the afternoon you step
gotta be in a
outside of work
t-shirt.
and you're like,
Yep.
okay, it's kind of warm out.
Why did I wear this?
Why-
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be regretting the Uggs come 3 o'clock when I leave here. I know it'll be warm.
Hey,
and
Live
toasty.
Impact News is a shoes off studio. You can do whatever
I
you
can
You
do
get
whatever I
comfortable.
want.
Yeah.
Y'all see my feet?
I mean, if you can kick your foot way up there, you can take your
I'll get
shoes
some
off.
in. I can do whatever. Okay.
Oh, that is so funny. But yeah, that's about all I got. It's going to be a nice weekend. I know the Charlotte Checkers, they start tonight. So that'll be fun. Charlotte FC on Saturday. It's going to be a fun day for that as well. And really, the next 2 days will be perfect. And again, even Sunday, not a bad looking forecast.
Can't complain.
Yeah.
Good news. Cool. All right, Majestic Storm, thank you so much.
Yes, thanks. Have fun in the mountains.
Ooh, you too.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take another quick break, but leaving off on some good news. Get to some more national headlines when we come back. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Live Impact News. It is 9:21. As I mentioned, we're going to get to some more national headlines right now. And of course, lots going on at the U.S. Capitol and in international news. Of course, the Capitol, the government here in the U.S. is still shut down. So we're expecting to hear more from leaders on both sides of the aisle about any updates or any headway made on some decisions. But of course, President Trump has also been quite busy. Today, he is expected to meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House, a day after President Trump said he will meet again with Russian President Putin. So lots to talk about there. We're going to get to NBC's Alice Barr, who has the latest.
President Trump wading back into negotiations over the Ukraine war, hosting Ukrainian President Zelensky today at the White House, and announcing a second in-person meeting with Russian President Putin in Hungary in the coming weeks, after what he called a very productive phone call with Putin Thursday.
We want to stop the killing. 7,000 people a week. Can you believe it? We want to stop the killing.
The fighting in Ukraine has only intensified in the 2 months since the last Trump-Putin summit in Alaska, and the president has repeatedly voiced frustration with Putin for keeping up the attacks.
I'm very disappointed in him because I thought this would have been an easy one to settle.
Frustration sometimes directed at Zelensky, too, who is expected today to press for long-range Tomahawk missiles that would help Ukraine strike deep into Russia.
I don't know what we can do about that.
President Trump citing American need.
We can't deplete for our country, so, they're very vital, they're very powerful.
Russia has warned any Tomahawk transfer would significantly damage U.S.-Russia relations, though Zelensky said he believes the threat of the weapons had forced Moscow to resume negotiations. Zelensky also noting he hopes to build off President Trump's success brokering a Gaza ceasefire, as the president responded to deeply troubling videos of Hamas conducting public executions, clearly not disarmed. The president writing, "If Hamas continues to kill people in Gaza, which was not the deal, we will have no choice but to go in and kill them," though he underscored U.S. troops would not be involved in the fight. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Yeah, Alice Barr reporting there. As I mentioned, lots going on in Washington today, especially at the White House and, of course, at the Capitol. So we're going to get through to that throughout this morning and the afternoon, as hopefully we get some updates on not just that meeting, but maybe any headway made on some government shutdown news. Now, government funding as a whole, not just with the budget stalemate, but with funding in general prior to this, is a big question mark for a lot of people. We are now kind of seeing the impacts of what does that actually mean for our communities when this funding gets either delayed, is cut entirely, or is moved to other avenues. So we spoke with WFAE's Executive Director of Membership and Major Gifts about how they are seeing impacts as a public radio station here in Charlotte and what that means for viewers.
All right, so we have a special guest here in studio. So I just want to set the scene for you guys. So back during the summer, if you remember, Congress finalized plans to pull back funding for public media. So when I say public media, I'm talking about NPR, PBS stations. And you're talking about millions, multi-billion dollars in funding. And it left a major funding gap for PBS stations, for NPR stations. We have an NPR affiliate right here in our backyard here in Charlotte, WFAE. And here on the program, we have Candace Johnson, Executive Director of Membership and Major Gifts. Candace, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. So good to be here.
Yeah, we were just talking about the landscape of the business. It's just, it's different.
It's very different.
Talk about what you guys at WFAE are dealing with right now.
So currently, naturally when the rescission bill came, right, and they voted and made the decision, immediately we lost nearly $1 million. And so you have to understand that funding was guaranteed for 26 and 27.
Oh, wow.
And so here we are in 25, right, trying to close the gap. And so we're halfway there. So we're not quite out of the woods for this fiscal year. But after we meet and close that $1 million gap, we've got to fill it again for 26 and 27. And so that gives you an idea of the bridge funding that we need to raise to be able to sustain operationally. So naturally, you've heard that we are exiting our Uptown building. We had to do some layoffs. And so we've done all the things that we can possibly do to be able to close that gap. But now we are really reliant on what has always been the fact for WFAE, is that this has been led and supported by the community, by our listeners. And so we are fueled by this community. So where we are now is really, we're in a state of urgency, and we absolutely need our listeners, this community, to rally behind WFAE if you value what we bring to this community.
Talk about it's the business part of it, but it's also the personal. Leaving the building in Uptown, seeing some of the staff leave. What has that done for you personally?
Well, it's difficult, right, to say goodbye to people that you've worked with every single day, and you've collaborated with, and so it's naturally it was a hard thing to do. But we also understand, as all organizations, we want to be able to make sure that we are able to do the mission and the work of WFAE.
Right.
And so while it was a hard decision, we knew we had to make a decision. And as people, we said our goodbyes, people understood, and so we've had great partnerships with everyone that has been a part of WFAE, but it was naturally something that we had to do. It wasn't something that we wanted to do, but we recognized the time that we're in, and there were things that we had to do.
And you mentioned it earlier, the $1 million campaign that you guys are doing right now. Can you talk about that campaign? How can folks help out?
Sure. So we are, immediately when we lost the funding, we went on the air to try to raise and start to close the gap. And so we did the community rallied, and they listened and heard the call, and that they really supported us in a way that was phenomenal. And so where we are now, we're about nearly there, and so we still have some work to do to be able to close that gap. Currently, right now, we're in our fall fund drive, and this is our first drive without federal funding. So this drive is really one that's memorable in a lot of different ways, because we'll have to really look and be able to recognize that the work that we're doing really is fueled by the listener. Unfortunately, there's a stat that we share on the air during the fund drive that the national average is about 1 in 10 people support and give who listen to your local NPR station, but here in Charlotte, we're about 1 in 15. So we want to be able to get to the average and then start to increase that average. But we absolutely need, if you've listened to WFAE for years, which a lot of people have and have not supported, but this is your time. This is now your opportunity to become a member, to be an active participant in how you are able to support what is provided to this community. For 45 years, we want to be here for 45 more.
Oh, wow. And beyond that, y'all do great work. How you said first campaign without federal funding, obviously. My heart sank when I heard that. That's scary.
Very. And the funding that we did receive, it amplified the other funding that we got, right? So we were able to cover some things, but now that funding is gone, there's the need to cover everything, and there's so much more that goes into that funding and where it goes. And so why we're here today and how you can support us today is to be diligent, and to really be able to say, you know what, I stand with WFAE. I listen every single day. What they provide to me and my household and how we make decisions is really important to us. And so now is the time to stand beside us, shoulder to shoulder, because that's what's going to take every single day, one gift at a time. It's how we get to close this gap, and we can only do it with the people who have supported us, with the people who are listening, and if we all come together and do that, we can absolutely continue to thrive and do the work that we want to do, because we're not going to vacillate or go away from our mission. We are very committed to what we're doing every single day, and so we want to be able to continue to give you that at a level of excellence that we've done.
You talk about the community. What has, from I guess your vantage point, what has the community said? What are some of the stories?
Oh, listen. What's interesting about listening to WFAE is every day you'll have a story that's like, oh my gosh, that's such a neat story, right? Yeah. And so you hear that, but you also hear comments like, I've been listening for like 10 years and I've never given. And some people don't even recognize that they've not given. You hear people say things like, this helped me make a better decision, or this information that I heard on WFAE today was, changed my mind about certain things, right? And so you get a wide variety of what people get out of what they hear every single day.
Yeah.
Naturally, you've got people who love their favorites, right? Morning Edition and Charlotte Talks is, naturally our city show that we offer every single day. Wait, don't tell me, and all things considered. Everybody has their favorite, but they are absolutely leaning in to say, I can't imagine a day without WFAE.
Yeah, I mean, it's it gets you through your day. Like if you know, like, man, I'm about to have a busy day. I got meetings,
right?
But I can look forward to this show. That gets people through the day.
Absolutely. The news reports that come and air throughout the day, so that you can be aware of what's coming, not only nationally but locally.
Yeah.
And I think that's the part that's most important to this Charlotte region, is that you get the local stories, and that you really understand what's going on in your community. WFAE is a force multiplier. And so we're able to amplify the concerns of this community. And so those are the kind of partnerships that we want to be able to continue. Those are the kind of community conversations that we want to be able to continue to have. But we absolutely have to have the support of this community, because there's so much work to be done.
And one more time, Candace, easiest way, I know folks are always looking for the most convenient way. The easiest way, convenient way for folks to pitch in and help out.
Absolutely. You can go to WFAE.org.
Oh, simple as that.
It's very simple.
That
is it. Go to No, absolutely not. WFAE.org, and you can get it done.
Oh man, Candace Johnson, Executive Director of Membership and Major Gifts at WFAE. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having us. I really appreciate it.
All right, really interesting interview there with WFAE's Executive Director of Membership and Major Gifts, talking about how this whole funding situation and delays and cuts is impacting the work they're able to do here in the Charlotte area. But of course, that is something that we're seeing with NPR affiliates all over the country, and so definitely an ongoing story we're going to pay attention to. Now, we're going to take a quick break, but first we wanted to show you this live picture of, I believe, Mount Kilauea in Hawaii.
This is the Kilauea volcano. I know you haven't been here for this. You haven't had the pleasure of seeing this.
This is my first time.
If regular viewers of Live Impact News have probably seen this before, because anytime it comes up, we have to call attention to it. This is the Kilauea volcano. It's in Hawaii. It has been having episodes of eruptions since December of last year, and this is no lie. I had to look it up. This is the 35th time since last December that this is erupted, and it happens all the time.
How have I literally not seen this? Where have I been?
I don't know, girl, because it happens all the time.
I know.
But it's so pretty to watch, and it's so interesting. But again, we think it's so interesting, but for those people who this is a Friday morning that's business as usual. This happens all the time over there. Look, look, wow. There's another flare up. Whee!
It's like a big bonfire.
It's this would be an awesome screensaver.
I love how you described it as it's having an episode.
It is. I mean, it's an episode. It's an episode.
Wow. Oh, you can see even. Ooh.
That's what I'm saying. Now it's kicking back up, because it was still slowing down. Now it's kicking back up. But again, everybody's like, oh my goodness, this is scary. There's no threat to the public.
Everyone's fine.
Everyone's fine. This is in its own little volcano kind of state park, if you will.
It's in its own volcano world.
Its own little thing. So it's very
fine.
controlled. Everything's safe. But this is, Hawaii does Hawaii things, and this is a very Hawaii thing.
Right. It's kind of like how some news stations will put up a Yule log for Christmas.
That's kind of what I do.
Right. We put up it's kind of actually going down a little bit.
I know. It's again, episodes. It's it's waves.
Yeah.
It's up and down. It's coming. But we're gonna keep an eye on it, because why not? It's so pretty.
Yeah, why not? Well, we're going to take a quick break, but we'll come back to Miss Kilauea in a bit. Time now is 9:35. We'll be back in 2 minutes. All right, welcome back to Live Impact News. We are going to get to some national headlines. As I mentioned, lots going on at the Capitol. Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries is speaking now. We're going to take a listen in, see what he has to say about the government shutdown.
Same group of people that found $20 billion, matched by another $20 billion, that the American taxpayers will be on the hook for $40 billion in total to bail out Argentina, and they can't find a dime to protect the health care of the American people. This is extraordinary stuff. And no word from the Speaker about any of it, because they just continue, unfortunately, to be rubber stamps for Donald Trump's extreme agenda.
Leader Jeffries, food banks are preparing for a surge. Federal workers are missing their paychecks, and millions of Americans could soon lose out on their food assistance. So at what point does this shutdown become too painful to continue these health care demands?
Well, we need to reopen the government, and we need to reopen the government now. Part of the problem is that House Republicans are nowhere to be found. Literally have been on vacation for 3 consecutive weeks, have canceled votes for 3 consecutive weeks. They are in the Legislative Witness Protection Program. No one can find them here in the Capitol, and no one can find them in their districts. They're not holding town hall meetings. They're not visiting federal employees. They're not engaging with their constituents. They've been on vacation for 3 weeks, House Republican, in the middle of a shutdown. And so what we need is for them to come back to work so we can work this out, reopen the government, stand by our hardworking federal employees. By the way, the Trump administration this year, before the shutdown, has forced out over 200,000 civil servants. That's before the shutdown. So they've already been targeting viciously and maliciously federal civil servants, undermining the ability to provide services to taxpayers in an effective and an efficient way. And so cruelty has been the point for this administration. We know this because the OMB director said his goal was to traumatize federal workers and thereby traumatize the American people. That's their words. Paul?
Do you have any information or update or anything about this bizarre happenings with flags and maybe one flag in the swastika and now potentially more flags? Has anybody given you any information about that?
We've not gotten any information specifically from the Speaker or from House Republican leadership, although it is a matter of deep concern. Like, we've already seen a rise in political violence and hatred in America. And then you've got swastikas apparently appearing in the offices of Republican members of Congress. You've got young Republicans engaging in the most anti-Semitic and racist speech possible. Like, this is apparently who many of these people are. They are ripping the sheets off in plain view of the American people. Their words, their actions, revealing themselves in so many different ways. And then you got Caroline Leavitt, who's sick. She's out of control. And I'm not sure whether she's just demented, ignorant, a stone cold liar, or all of the above. But the notion that an official White House spokesperson would say that the Democratic Party consists of terrorists, violent criminals, and undocumented immigrants, this makes no sense. That this is what the American people are getting from the Trump administration in the middle of a shutdown. So their actions continue to speak for themselves, which is why they're on the wrong side of public sentiment.
Question on the shutdown.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you. Do you have any comment on the New York City mayoral debate yesterday and how long you're still waiting to endorse Zoran?
Yeah, I haven't gotten a chance to review it. I do expect to speak to the Democratic nominee, Zoran, at some point before early voting.
Mr. Leader.
President Trump has said he's canceled the Gateway project. He's going to be prepared to slash welfare benefits in his latest comment. Is that even legal, what he's proposing to do, and does that make it harder to resolve the shutdown?
Yeah, we're going to continue to stand up for the American people. cancel the cuts, lower the costs, save health care. We've made that position very clear from the beginning, and we're not moving, we're not going to bend, we're not going to break, because it's the health care of the American people that's at stake. And all of these efforts to try to intimidate Democratic members of the House and the Senate are not going to work, because we are on the side of the American people. And much of the action that the Trump administration is taking, of course, is unlawful and illegal. As a federal judge in Northern California found with respect to the dismissals of about 4,000 or so federal employees, that was found to be unlawful. And so these threats to try to back us off our position, it's not working and it's not going to happen, because there is a Republican healthcare crisis that is devastating the American people. And we're going to continue to stand up for everyday Americans.
Mr. Leader, you've been really trying to show united force with Leader Schumer. You guys have appeared together quite a bit. Yesterday on the floor, Leader Schumer encouraged every American to go out and participate in these No Kings rallies over the weekend. I know you said you hadn't looked at your schedule. Do you plan to participate in a No Kings rally? Will it be in New York? And why do you think that these rallies are important this weekend?
Well, I haven't finalized my schedule for the weekend, given the sensitivities around the government shutdown. And I'm still very hopeful that Republicans will decide to show up for work so we can get the government back open. But I support the right of every single American to participate in the rallies that are going to take place this week. And showing up to express dissent against an out-of-control administration, that's as American as motherhood, baseball, and apple pie. That's the First Amendment. And the notion that this unhinged White House spokesperson would suggest that that's hateful. That's not hateful. What's hateful is what happened on January 6th. That was a Hate America rally sponsored by Donald Trump and his sycophants who incited a violent mob to storm the Capitol. That's what hate looks like. What you'll see this weekend is what patriotism looks like. People showing up to express opposition to the extremism that Donald Trump has been unleashing on the American people, and Donald Trump's failures, the Republican failure to keep their core promise. Because you know what their core promise was last year? They were going to lower the high cost of living. They haven't lowered the high cost of living. Costs haven't gone down on day one as they promised. They lied to the American people. Costs have gone up. Inflation has gone up. Grocery prices out of control. Housing costs out of control. Electricity bills skyrocketing. And now, because Republicans refused to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits for working class Americans, middle class Americans, and everyday Americans, health insurance premiums are about to blow through the roof, bankrupt people, and prevent them from being able to see a doctor when they need one. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
All right, that was Hakeem Jeffries speaking on the latest in the government shutdown. He has been doing so pretty much every day. Now we are on day 17 of that government shutdown. No headway seems to be made on either side of looking for some sort of agreement on what a spending bill should look like. Some other national news we want to get to. John Bolton, who is the former national security advisor under President Trump the first time, he has surrendered to federal authorities. Now, we expected this to happen. He is charged with multiple counts, I believe 18 counts of mishandling classified materials. This is video of him leaving his house this morning. And just within the last few minutes or so, we got word that he did show up to that courthouse in Maryland. Did not answer questions from reporters, of course. That's not unexpected. But here's that live feed right now from outside the courthouse where we're hoping to get some more information once we get anything really. Not sure if anyone's going to speak, but I know that reporters are getting ready just in case. Some more information, though, about what we are looking at here. Prosecutors have been investigating whether Bolton was improperly retaining classified materials after he left the first Trump administration years ago. That's 8 counts of transmission of national defense information and 10 counts of unlawful retention of that information. The indictment alleges that Bolton transmitted this information using personal emails or some sort of unsafe messaging application to send out documents that are labeled as top secret. That concludes things about future attacks, foreign adversaries, and foreign policy relations between different countries. It also says that these documents, some of them were at his home, which is not allowed, as that is an unsafe place per the federal government to leave that kind of information. Now, Bolton, of course, has denied any wrongdoing and said the charges were politically motivated. He sees this as retribution against him during his first term in the White House, especially after I believe the Trump administration tried to block the publication of Bolton's book before the 2020 election. So his attorney, of course, agreeing with him, saying he did not break the law. We're going to see what comes of this investigation further, but we're just, waiting to see. This is breaking news right now that he has turned himself in. We'll have updates to come, but right now, this is actively happening out of, I believe, Greenbelt, Maryland, I want to say.
Yeah, so this is, your video you're looking at here is from him leaving his house in Bethesda, but in Greenbelt, Maryland, which is...
That's the scene that's live right now.
That's right.
That we're waiting. So we're going to see. We're going to come back to this. I think we're going to take a quick break, but know that this is something we'll probably be getting back to throughout the day. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to Live Impact News. Of course, it is Friday. We're looking ahead to a really nice weekend. We heard from Majestic Storm earlier, and it's going to be a good weekend to get out and do things, especially we're in October. It's starting to finally feel like it, so it's a good fall activity weekend. Now, one of those activities that you can do on Sunday is Biketoberfest. That is Sustain Charlotte's, I believe, biggest fundraiser of the year, and we spoke with Shannon Binns, their director, about the importance of this, what this means for the organization, and why you should come out and do it. So our Nick Sturdivant had that conversation. Here it is.
All right, welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. We want to bring on a special guest here in studio with an organization that started in late 2007. This guy who has lived in big cities across the U.S., but landed here in Charlotte and has a big event coming up on Sunday, Biketober. You might know that event. I'm sure you do. If you live here, you've been to Charlotte, been in Charlotte for some time. Biketober. We're talking about Sustain Charlotte. We have Shannon Binns here, founder of Sustain Charlotte. How are you doing this morning? Or I say this morning. It's been a day. But how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing well. So you lived in D.C., New York, Seattle. How did you end up here in Charlotte?
Well, my sister was living here at the time. She's still living here. And my mom and other sister are down in South Carolina, so I moved down here to be closer to family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So Sustain Charlotte. Why? What did you notice about Charlotte when you first got here that led you to start Sustain Charlotte?
So initially, I was living out in Ballantyne.
Yeah.
My sister and I were living together, and I hadn't owned a car in any of those cities that you just mentioned. Hadn't owned a car in a decade, and I realized I had to buy a car because I was literally. There was nowhere I could go in walking distance. I don't think there was even a sidewalk, and there was no bus service yet to Ballantyne. So I was literally like, if I want to go somewhere other than this apartment complex, I gotta get a car.
Yeah.
It was a painful decision for me. Like, I didn't think I was going to be a car owner again. I don't like spending time in cars. I'd much rather be using my body, walking, biking, or letting someone else do the driving, as is the case with bus and rail, right? So that was part of it. I started that, and it's like, man, this city is growing in a way that just frankly is not sustainable, right? We're consuming lots of land. We are growing very, very inefficiently through what's called urban sprawl, right? Growing further and further outward, consuming forests, farmlands, and that type of growth requires cars, right? That type of growth is only possible because of cars getting invented in the first place, and you can only grow that way for so long before you have total gridlock because you've got too many people trying to get around in cars, and you run out of the things that are important, like your natural resource base that people depend on for clean water and clean air. So I looked around and I was like, where's the organization that's advocating for sustainable growth? How do we grow in a way that ensures this is a healthy place to live, has a high quality of life? And how do we, in a way that rights inequities from the past rather than exacerbating existing inequities in terms of, certain neighborhoods are wealthy, some are not wealthy, some, are white, some are black. We had all these neighborhoods segregated by race and income, and the way we were growing wasn't making that separation any better. So, long story short, I thought we need an organization who's advocating for a different way of growing, one that values the environment, one that values health, one that values safety and equity, because cities can be grown that way, but you have to be intentional and you have to have the right plans and policies and budgets, and often that requires people using their voices to say, this is how we want to grow. And so that's what we try to do, is bring people's voices together to say, these are our values, this is how we want to grow, we want to have a high quality of life, we want it to be good for everyone here, we want to have clean air, we want to have ways to get around without having to get into a car for every trip. So,
and it's constantly the conversation here in Charlotte.
Yeah.
I do want to ask, two questions, but I'll start with this one. What was the reception here in the city like when you launched it?
Overwhelmingly positive. I mean, that's the thing. I didn't set out to start an organization.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to just have an event, right, to get people to come together who've been thinking about these kinds of things a little bit, working on them, and come up with a vision for how we were going to grow. So I wanted to have a visioning workshop, basically. And that's really all I wanted to do. I didn't necessarily want to create an organization, but I stood up I decided, okay, I need to create a landing page so people can register for this visioning workshop, as I called it. And you know how, at least it used to be, and I guess most websites still have like a contact page. You can like click here, and like it's an anonymous form, and like you don't know who it's going to, but that's how you can contact the organization. Well, I put one of those in there, and the emails just started flying in. This idea of sustainability and sustainable development. A lot of people wanted to talk about that. Hey, can I get coffee? I want to learn more about Sustain Charlotte, which I was just doing, on the side outside my full-time job as a volunteer thing. And it just pretty quickly snowballed and kind of took over my life. Like, there were so many people interested in talking about this and wanting to be part of it that I couldn't even reply to all the requests people had to meet.
How many requests?
Oh, I don't even know. But I looked back one day and I was like, man, that's a really important person I didn't know who that was at the time, but that's kind of a mover and shaker in town that I probably should have had coffee with, but I just didn't have the time.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, though, I think the interest was very strong, and I tell people a lot. I think the idea of Sustain Charlotte came along with one of those right time, right place. People were hungry for a more responsible responsible, thoughtful way to grow than we were growing at that time. This was 2009-ish, 2010, and I think just that idea that I put out there was, again, people just really got behind that and said, yeah. And to be honest, part of why I started it is I was going around, going out socially at the time. I wasn't married yet, no kids. I would go out at night to different civic events, I'll call them, and it seemed like everywhere I went, people were expressing how unhappy they were with the way Charlotte was growing.
Yeah.
They didn't like the McMansion being built next door, or the changes, that were all around them, but they seemed helpless. They didn't know what to do about it.
Right.
I don't like the way the city's growing, but I'm just one person. What can I do? And so the idea was, well, if I can get all these people that feel that way to kind of work together and speak with a common voice, maybe we can actually shape how the city grows. We can change the trajectory to have it grow in a way that people really want, not just the people who are profiting off of the growth.
What is, I guess, the second part of that question, does the same Charlotte have responsibility in not only the conversation, but what we're seeing right now when it comes to transportation, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's going to be on the ballot in November, but what is the same Charlotte's role in that?
Yeah, so we've been at the tip of the spear, and we've actually been advocating for a dedicated source of revenue to make a significant investment in our transportation network for about a decade. We've been wanting to see something like this sales tax because we have not been investing in our transportation system in a way that we need to keep up with our growth, right? I think what we're seeing is more and more congestion, right? It's taking longer to get places, and that's a natural result of growing your city in a way I mentioned earlier for cars, right? Where you will sort of create car dependency when you grow the way that we've grown in that suburban sprawling way. And if you don't, side by side with population growth, also invest in more efficient ways to get people around, then you're going to have problems, right? And so we knew that, we've known that, it's a well-known fact in the planning world, right? That if you don't plan and build efficient infrastructure, meaning walking, biking, transit, right? Those are just, all of those modes take far less space per person than a car, right? You think about one person in one car, how much space they require on the road. It's many, many times more than a person sitting on a bus or a train, and even a person on a bike or on foot is taking up a fraction of the space as the person in the car. So as cities get more dense and more people move there, you have to find more efficient ways to move people, or you'll have gridlock. So we've been advocates for those other ways of getting around, and we've been huge advocates for this sales tax increase. Because
so totally on board.
We're totally on board. We're out there talking about it every day, because if we don't do that, it's not just that we're going to maintain the status quo. Things are going to get far worse, because the population growth that we are experiencing today is more than ever. 157 people moving here every single day. So when you go to bed tonight, there's 157 more people living in the Charlotte area than when you woke up this morning or when you went to bed last night. And if we don't have other ways for those people to get around, those more efficient ways, most of those people are going to be getting into a car and hitting the streets. And that's just a recipe for more and more gridlock and more air pollution and water pollution and expense. That's the most expensive way to get around as well.
And one of the ways, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like you're promoting this is through Biketober.
Biketoberfest,
Biketoberfest.
Absolutely.
On Sunday. Talk about that.
Yeah, so Biketoberfest was an event we started to show people that actually, when we have safe bike lanes and we have greenways, right? When we have basically safe, comfortable places to ride, as we do in South End and parts of Uptown and some of the surrounding neighborhoods, when we build safe places for people to bike, it's the most fun way to get around. It's the most efficient. It's the easiest. You don't have to pay for parking. You can park right in front of the door, to wherever you're going, and it's free. Once you buy your bike for a few $100, now your transportation's free. So cities all over the world have realized this. It's not like I came up with this, right? Cities know this, and so a lot of cities have gone, they've doubled down, tripled down on making their streets safer for people to bike. because they know, like, in urban areas, it just makes a lot of sense, right? A lot of places are a little too far to walk, but not too far to bike if it's safe, right? And now with electronic bikes,
you can get everywhere. I see it all the time.
and you can go further, faster, and you don't have to worry about the heat and humidity being the obstacle, because if you don't want to work, you don't have to work. So Biketoberfest is about that. It's about showing people, look, when we build our city in a way where things are close enough together that you can get there by bike, and we have bike lanes that are safe, meaning separated from traffic. This is a great way to get around and get places. So we give people a taste of that during Biketoberfest. We have a route.
Yeah, okay.
It's about 16 or so miles, 16 and a half. Hits pretty much every neighborhood that rings uptown. So our oldest neighborhoods, they're all pretty close together. So you can hit over a dozen neighborhoods on Sunday at Biketoberfest on your bike. And then all along that route, we have local businesses that are participating as stops along the route. So they're expecting you. We'll give you a passport that you take with you, and you get to that business, and they're ready to stamp your passport for you to show you've been there. They'll have discounts and freebies, samples and whatnot. And then you end up back where you started at Triple C Brewing, and you turn in your passport stamps or raffle tickets, and we give away all kinds of cool prizes donated by local businesses. Have live music. All of that going on afterwards. So it's just a great community event. It's a great way to explore and discover new parks and greenways and businesses and neighborhoods in your own city that we find most people have never been to, right? We all have our work bubble and our home bubble, and maybe we move between those two bubbles.
Go-to restaurant.
Yeah, right? But with this, it's like, wow, we have people tell us all the time, I didn't know this neighborhood existed in Charlotte. I've never been on this greenway. Where did this park come from? And that's the best thing I think about this, is we really open people's eyes to what exists in their own city, because they're going places they wouldn't otherwise go.
What do you look forward to? I know you are, from your perspective, and you're in planning, making sure everybody else is having a great experience. What is your experience like?
I mean, I have a great time too. I mean, I get out there on the route and I ride the whole thing, and I want to make sure that I want to see what's happening. How, is it working well for people? Are the businesses happy? Are the riders happy? I'm just out there to kind of make sure everybody's having a good time and has what they need, and then experience it myself. And we've got a team that's working really hard back at the office right now to put this all together. We're a small shop, but there's 4 people back at our office who are nose to the grindstone putting all these pieces together.
I thought you were about to say 4 people and 2 are here in studio.
No, I'm number 5, and DC over here is helping us get the word out.
You're good, DC.
He's helping get the word out. So, but there's a small team, and so it's a lot of work to put this together. But we know, if folks come out, they're going to have a great time.
What time?
So check in at Triple C, where you pick up your passport. That starts at 11:30.
Okay.
You can hit the route anytime from noon on. It's not like.
All right, definitely some exciting stuff. We are going to interrupt this interview because we do have something live happening. House Speaker Mike Johnson is addressing reporters about the government shutdown, and we're going to listen in and see what he has to say about hopefully some updates.
Many millions of American people are suffering, being made to suffer unnecessarily because of the Democrats' political games. If you're keeping count at home, we're on day 17 of the shutdown. The Democrats have now voted for the 11th time to keep the government closed. 11 times now. They've refused to just do their basic job, get the government going again, making sure that federal employees are paid, that our troops are paid, Border Patrol agents, TSA agents, air traffic controllers, and everyone else who relies upon the vital services of our federal government. They're being denied that because Democrats in Congress are playing games. And right now, to add insult to injury, if you're paying attention at home, you also need to make note of this. Yesterday, the Senate Democrats took it a step further. They rejected a standalone bill to fund our nation's defense and pay our troops. They voted it down. Now, why is that so noteworthy? Well, the bill was passed out of committee in the Senate with broad bipartisan support. And yet, the Democrats still engaged in a stunt on the floor, and they rejected it. So now they are on record specifically and exclusively to block the paychecks of the troops, to block the funding of our national defense in a very dangerous moment in world history. It is absurd to us. Leader Thune said this on the floor, on the Senate floor after that vote. He said, quote, "That one vote demonstrates just how fundamentally disinterested Democrats are in supporting our troops and providing for our common defense." Yes, that is exactly what we saw. And I suspect that if they were here today and it was on the floor, they'd do it once again. Now, tomorrow, the Democrat leaders are going to join for a big party out on the National Mall. They're going to descend on our Capitol for their much-anticipated so-called No Kings rally. We refer to it by its more accurate description, the Hate America rally, okay? And I'm not sure how anybody can refute that. If you think about what's going to happen here tomorrow, you're going to bring together the Marxists, the socialists, the Antifa advocates, the anarchists, and the pro-Hamas wing of the far-left Democrat Party. That is the modern Democratic Party. That's where they've gone. And the Hate America rally is the common theme among all those groups. Listen to the language they use themselves. Many of them don't like living in America. They hate capitalism. They hate our free enterprise system. They hate our principles. They hate the ideas that we come in to work every day to fight for, to preserve, in the greatest nation in the history of the world. They hate the idea of individual freedom and limited government. They hate the idea of the rule of law. They fight against it all the time. They hate the idea of peace through strength. They lobby against it all the time. Individual freedom, limited government, the rule of law, peace through strength, fiscal responsibility, free markets, human dignity, the things that lead to human flourishing, the things that made us the greatest nation in the history of the world. They're opposed to law enforcement. They're opposed to military. And their votes show it over and over. That's the collection of voices that you'll hear tomorrow that the Democrats will go out and raise their hands with and cheer with. And some of these people are so blinded by their hatred of President Donald Trump that they can't find one reason to celebrate America or all that we've accomplished and continue to accomplish under this new administration. Now, obviously, every American has every right to exercise their First Amendment freedoms. I'm personally a big advocate of that. I spent the first 20 years of my legal career in the federal courts before I came to Congress defending the right to free speech. They have the right to do it. Republicans, by the way, are the party that fights to maximize your liberty. And we believe, just as our founders did, that every American has been endowed by God himself with unalienable rights, and that includes the rights to life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. But tomorrow, this rally is not about freedom. It's about the opposite. For many of our Democrat colleagues, tomorrow is about creating really a spectacle. That's what they've been doing here every day of the shutdown with their little TikTok videos and their publicity stunts. And they're going to do it in a much larger venue tomorrow. And as the shutdown drags on, it's becoming increasingly clear that this spectacle is the reason the Democrats have refused to reopen the government. Just read a sample of the materials that this organizing group has circulated far and wide about the event tomorrow. They distributed talking points cheering on the shutdown. I mean, they're urging this on. They love this. They're cheering on Chuck Schumer's decision to close the government, and their lead organizer said this. This is his words, not mine. Quote, "He hasn't surrendered yet. I call that progress." Maybe that's what led Chuck Schumer to say that every day of the shutdown gets better for us. That's what he said. Since then, Democrats have had their 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th opportunities to reopen the government, and they have obeyed the mob. They have listened to that. On Wednesday, this is pretty ominous. I don't know if anybody's reported on this, but you should. The lead organizer of tomorrow's event issued an open threat to Democrats in Washington, and this is what he said, quote, "The cavalry is coming in on October 18th, and they're either going to be celebrating you or they're going to be calling for new leadership in the Democrat Party." Now, I know who heard that. Chuck Schumer heard it. Hakeem Jeffries heard it. And their actions and their votes show that they are taking that as an order. Evidently, they've decided it's more important to show a fight to President Trump and appease this mob than to reopen the government and ensure the American people are taken care of. It's a binary choice right now. And to the surprise of literally no one, Chuck Schumer confirmed yesterday that he'll attend tomorrow's rally. Of course he will. He gave an impassioned speech on the Senate floor. He urged his colleagues to stand with him and fight against President Trump. The fight is absurd. Senator, you've been in office for 44 years. You've been in Congress longer than that, but you've been in Congress for 44 years, and everybody clearly understands what's going on. You're holding the entire country hostage to protect your own political career. I mean, no one can deny that. And what you're doing is absurd. You're demanding $1.5 trillion new spending instead of the clean, totally nonpartisan CR that you yourself voted for just 7 months ago. The whole charade is obvious. And I also want to point out the irony that is equally clear, okay? As much as we disagree with Schumer and the Senate Democrats and all of that's going to happen tomorrow, not a single person is going to be standing in their way of their right to exercise, assemble, and protest peacefully. That alone is a profound testament to the strength of our republic, to the beauty of America. They are decrying the country that allows them to engage in this activity. And the last time I checked, Americans have more freedom right now to express themselves and speak their minds after Republicans took over and ended the years of having millions of Americans' voices systematically silenced during the COVID pandemic years and the left's cancel culture. It is the Republicans that restored your right to share and speak your mind. And that's the first and most obvious irony of the Hate America rally. The second and even more absurd fact is that all the Democrats who are so angry that they don't control the government are the same people who have decided to shut it down and hand the keys to President Trump. That's the great irony. Chuck Schumer said it himself. I brought just two lines out of his New York Times op-ed that he wrote and published March 18th of this year. And he pointed out there, in a shutdown, this is his words, the Trump administration would have wide-ranging authority. He said there's no check on their determinations on what is essential and what is not. Chuck Schumer put it in writing and published it. He knew this scenario, and he is the one that has decided to hand the keys to the kingdom to President Trump. When he shut down the legislative branch, the chief executive has the authority to make the decisions in the executive branch. He has no choice. They have turned off the funding streams, and they have to triage the situation with federal spending. Everybody on the Mall this weekend should recognize and remember who's responsible for taking the reins of Congress and handing them to President Trump. It's Chuck Schumer. He's the one that's done it, and he can make it stop tomorrow if he had the courage to tell you the truth. But he's incapable of telling the truth right now, and he's doing something that's unprecedented. Never in the history of Congress has a party shut down the government over a clean CR. This is an unprecedented event, and it's inexcusable. And it's Chuck Schumer who's making the decision to keep the government closed. And until the mob and Bernie and AOC and the rest of the socialists give him permission to reopen the government, we're afraid that Americans are going to continue to suffer at the hands of Democrats' political games. I doubt Americans will hear that on the protest days tomorrow, but that is the truth. And it's why Republicans are here and will continue to be here every single day, sharing the facts with the American people for as long as it takes. In just a moment, you're going to get to hear from our dear friend and colleague, the chairman of our Armed Services Committee, Chairman Mike Rogers of Alabama. As I mentioned at the top of the remarks, Democrats have voted 11 times now to block the paychecks for our troops. And we have a duty to support those men and women who defend our country and all the rest of us. And the Democrats are failing our brave heroes. Chairman Rogers is here to tell you more about that and the other grave implications for our national defense and our military readiness. I'm happy to introduce him to you right now. Chairman Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate that. I appreciate all of y'all being here and focusing on what this means for us. We are very fortunate that President Trump found a way to pay our troops this Wednesday on their payday. For those of you who aren't aware, this country has never, for the last 148 years, because of congressional inaction, failed to pay the troops on time. 1877 was the last time. That would have happened this Wednesday, but for what President Trump did. I do want you to know that that option is not going to be available in 2 weeks for their next paycheck. We had 2 million service members that were able to get paid this week because of President Trump's creativity. And these are families that are serving around the world, many of them in very unfavorable conditions, making huge sacrifices for our freedom and safety. And most of them live paycheck to paycheck. Most of them have less than $3,000 in savings, and 1 in 5 of them only have one source of income. So this is very real for these folks. Now, the 500,000 civilian federal employees, they're going to miss their first paycheck next week, and then the rest of them the week thereafter. This is going to get really painful for a lot of civilian employees. Obviously, I think about the DOD civilian employees, but throughout the federal workforce, people will start missing their first paycheck next week and the week after, and it is solely at the feet of Chuck Schumer and the Democrats in the Senate. This body has passed a funding bill that just continued the Biden budget for a few weeks while we negotiated, and it's the Democrats who have decided to shut this government down. Another consequence that we're dealing with, we were just informed last night by the National Nuclear Security Administration, the group that handles and manages our nuclear stockpile, that the carryover funding they've been using is about to run out. They will have to lay off 80% of their employees. These are not employees that you want to go home. They're managing and handling a very important strategic asset for us. They need to be at work and being paid. Other things that some of our civilian and active duty, the active duty employees are having to suffer is they don't get to do routine medical and dental care when they're in a shutdown. They don't have tuition assistance when they're in a shutdown. If you're got a permanent duty change of station that's occurred during the shutdown, you're just stuck. Your apartment may already be closed. You may be your furniture on a truck going somewhere, and you're just stuck in limbo. All these things are real life problems for people that are being imposed on them by the Democrats. Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, their governments are not shut down. These are the members of the axis of evil that we're having to deal with, and we need our Defense Department operating on all cylinders. Y'all know we've recently passed the reconciliation bill. We're in the middle of contract negotiations for nuclear submarines, for destroyers, for aircraft carriers. All that had to stop because of this. We have personnel that are supposed to be analyzing our intelligence gathering. They're gone home. They've gone home. They can't do their jobs. This has very real national security implications that Chuck Schumer has imposed on this country, and it needs to end. It needs to end, especially now before people start missing paychecks. And with that, I'll yield to the leadership.
Thank you, Chairman Rogers. Well, Chairman Rogers just laid out some of the dire consequences that are happening today because Chuck Schumer decided to shut down the government. And a lot of people ask, what's the off-ramp? And especially they ask, what changed in Chuck Schumer from just a few months ago, back in March when Chuck Schumer voted for these very same funding levels? Chuck Schumer himself voted for these funding levels in March, and today he's shutting the entire government down, jeopardizing America's national security over those same levels. And so what changed? And I think you don't need to look any further than what you saw on the stage in New York last night. A debate between the leading candidates for mayor of New York to see how far Chuck Schumer's party has moved to the socialist left. When you see Mondami, who's the leading candidate, and by all accounts is going to win going away for mayor of New York, has taken over the Democrat Party in the state of New York. And his main opponent on that stage, there is no bench in the Democrat Party. It was disgraced former Governor Cuomo, who was run out of office for, among other things, instituting policies during COVID that led to the death of thousands of senior citizens. That's the best that the Democrat Party has to offer in the city of New York. And so Chuck Schumer's watching all of this and recognizing that from March till today, his own party has moved so far to the socialist left that he's now afraid for his own political future. And to try to hold on and grasp one last ounce of power for himself, he's willing to jeopardize millions of American families. And that is who is paying the consequence for Chuck Schumer's actions, for the tantrum that he's having. He is more concerned, as the speaker pointed out, at impressing the Hate America rally crowd that's coming up here tomorrow than he is about not solving all of our problems. Tomorrow, if he voted today to open up the government, it wouldn't solve our differences. And we all know we have big differences. We have 3 appropriations bills that are in a conference committee that, frankly, Republicans and Democrats on those committees had already worked out the differences. And it was Chuck Schumer who walked away back then a few weeks ago and decided then he was going to shut the government down. Not because we had really big differences on those policies, but because he needed to appease the radical base that had taken over his own party. And so maybe as Chuck Schumer starts realizing the consequences of his actions, and maybe it's the people that are holding Chuck Schumer hostage that we need to make an appeal to release Chuck Schumer so he can release the American people. But over and over again, we're going to keep talking about the damage that Chuck Schumer's actions in shutting down the government are causing on real people. Our men and women in uniform, yes, President Trump was able to stave off for a few more weeks by finding money to pay for them, but as Chairman Rogers pointed out, that account's about to go dry. But there are other federal employees that were not able to get paid just in this most recent pay schedule. And my local media outlet, WWL-TV, just did a story today that went live about the consequences to those federal employees. We're talking about thousands of people just in southeast Louisiana. Maybe Chuck Schumer doesn't care about those people, but his party is causing pain through a lot of corners of this country. I want to read a quote from the director of the food bank in the New Orleans area. He said, quote, "Demand is up, supply is down, and now we're getting hammered by the fallout from the government shutdown as more and more people who may have been expecting to get that paycheck to buy groceries. So now they'll come to us or one of our 500 partners to get food assistance." That was the chief strategy officer of Second Harvest Food Bank in New Orleans, just representing one area of the country where thousands of federal workers can't even afford to buy groceries and are going to a local food bank so that Chuck Schumer can appease the most radical socialists in his party. This is affecting real people. And there's a bill that, again, doesn't solve all of our differences, but just allows those people to be freed so that they can get back to work. They can get their paychecks. They can provide food for their family while we negotiate those differences for another few weeks. It's time for Chuck Schumer to end this madness. There's a bill to open the government. Let's go solve our differences, negotiate our differences, but in the meantime, stop holding the American people hostage, Chuck Schumer. Yield now to our conference chair, Lisa McClain.
Thank you. Well, happy Friday, everybody. Here we are again. It's been almost a month since House Republicans passed a bill to keep your government open. And what have Democrats done in all that time? They have voted now 11 times to shut the government down. Shut the government down. 10 times to deny paychecks to troops. 10 times to block food assistance from struggling moms and families. 10 times to close our national parks. And 10 times to force our TSA agents, Border Patrol officers, and air traffic controllers to work without pay. Why? Ask yourself why. Because Democrats are holding the American people hostage, using you as leverage to demand more wasteful spending. That's what they want, to the tune of $1.5 trillion of that. And what do they want you to spend your money on? Well, again, let's take a look at it again. I know I sound like a broken record, but these are the facts. Government benefits for illegal immigrants. They want to spend your tax dollars on that. They want to spend your tax dollars on handouts to left-wing media outlets. They want to spend your tax dollars to fund LGBTQ awareness campaigns, not here, but overseas, right? Because your money should be spent on LGBTQ awareness overseas. And pet projects that President Trump already shut down for being wasteful and woke. See, the Democrats like the wokeness, and they advocate for the waste, the fraud, and the abuse. And they advocate for that on your backs and with your money. It makes no sense until you see who's really calling the shots. This weekend, we'll see mobs of radicals at the I Hate America rally. And you'll see them across the country. These are the same activists who pressure Democrats to keep our government closed, to hurt you, to divide us, and to push their far left agenda. So when you see those images, remember this. This is who Democrats are fighting for. Not you, not our troops, not the hardworking moms down the street. They're fighting for the most radical voices in America. And make sure that they own that. Right? It's time to stop catering to the protesters and start standing with the American workers. Open the government, pay our troops, reject Chuck Schumer's dirty little deal, and let's get back to work for the American people.
Thank you. Okay, questions? Yes, sir.
All right, we're going to get back to Speaker Johnson taking some questions in a minute. Going to take a quick break, but I know that they mentioned the No Kings protest. I do want to mention that we do have that happening here locally in Charlotte tomorrow, and we're going to have a streaming show to cover what's happening locally from 10 a.m. to noon. That will be with Nick Sturdivant. So more on that later. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
I do know that ICE.
Welcome back. It is 10:30 on the dot. We're going to get back out to House Speaker Mike Johnson answering some reporter questions now.
Whatsoever to do with what's happening in Congress. Rep-elect Grijalva is to be congratulating for winning her late father's seat. We love that. We're going to administer the oath to her as soon as we get back to our regular legislative session. As I've said 1,000 times, that is the issue. We're going to. I'm following the Pelosi precedent, by the way, as I've noted here. Our dear friend and colleague, Julia Letlow from Louisiana, won her special election in similar circumstances, replaced her late husband, who passed away tragically because of COVID, Luke, our friend, and Julia won the race, and Nancy Pelosi took 25 days to administer the oath to her, and no one held a rally or stomped around or barged indoors or did TikTok videos about it, because we understood that was the way the process works. If you look over the history of the institution, this is how it works. No one is impeding her. And by the way, I would say to Rep. Grijalva, if her Democrat colleagues and leadership have not informed her, you can be serving your constituents right now. You have an office. She's hired 16 employees. They keep going by and knocking on the door and pretending it's locked. If it's locked, it's because Rep. Grijalva is choosing not to represent her constituents. She can be handling their calls, directing them appropriately, and doing lots of important work right now. I don't know if she is. I hope she is. No ill will towards her at all. I'm going to congratulate her, as I do every colleague who comes in, and we'll do it as soon as we can get the government open again, and get all these Americans who are suffering taken care of. Yes, ma'am. Back here.
Thank you. What is your reaction to Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene saying this is a serious issue in regards to Representative Mills and accusing you of hypocrisy over the handling of this situation versus George Santos?
I don't know. I try not to react to what Marjorie Taylor Greene says every day. I did see, somebody told me that she accused me of ousting Santos, which of course is the exact opposite of the history. Everyone can go review what happened. I opposed his expulsion from Congress. I voted against it. I advocated to my colleagues not to do that. And you can take George Santos's word for it himself. I think right before he submitted to prison, he did a very friendly social media post about me and how I'd been such a great friend to him and a help to the guy. I had a lot of, I was trying to reach out to him as I would any colleague who's in a difficult situation. And I'll be frank. I talked to George Santos about redemption and about, God's mercy and grace. So, look, I don't know what Marjorie's talking about. Corey Mills, I noted a few days ago when I was asked about Corey Mills, I'm aware of the allegations against him. I'm an attorney, so I'm going to reserve judgment on that, let the legal process play out, as I should, as anyone would expect. But what I said about Corey from the podium, I meant he's been a very hardworking member of Congress. He digs in deep on his areas of expertise and all of that. And, he's served his constituents faithfully so far as I've seen. I mean, he's been, a hardworking colleague here. With regard to what's going on in his personal life, I don't know. I know people want me to throw colleagues under the bus. I don't do that. I'm not going to do that. And we'll let the legal process play out. So thank y'all so much.
You were listening into House Speaker Mike Johnson at his daily briefing about the government shutdown. As we've heard now from both sides, really sounds like no headway made in coming to an agreement about what the budget should look like, what spending should look like, especially with Affordable Care Act subsidies. That's the biggest disagreement, is healthcare costs. Want to get back here closer to home, some breaking news out of Gaston County. We now know that a major fentanyl pill lab has been shut down after a months-long undercover investigation. So we have the mugshots of the two men that were arrested as a part of this, a 29-year-old and a 27-year-old. Now, this was, as I mentioned, undercover by both Gastonia police and federal partners. They called it Operation Blue Hammer. They dismantled an active pill lab inside of a home, according to police. Now, detectives described the environment as, quote, highly contaminated. It required the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigations in full hazmat gear in there to conduct this investigation and collect that evidence. They seized more than 10,000 fentanyl pills, 2 portable pill press machines, and that was used to create counterfeit fentanyl-laced tablets. Now, authorities estimate that the seized narcotics have a street value between $300,000 and $400,000. So it is rare to find an operating lab and equipment like this still in place, police say. So these, as I mentioned, are the 2 men arrested. Both are being held on $1 million bond each, with additional charges expected as this investigation continued. Again, this is just coming into our newsroom in the last 30 minutes or so. So this is breaking, and we are expecting some more information about those charges and the investigation hopefully later today. Of course, the district attorney is getting involved, saying the investigation here very extensive, and praising the authorities involved for getting this done well. As I mentioned, this was also federal partners, North Carolina SBI, and the Gaston County Police Department, as well as the Stanley County Police Department. So, or Stanley Police Department, excuse me. So, lots going on here. We are going to keep following this as we go throughout the day, but know that this is a breaking story and will be evolving as the day goes on. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to Live Impact News here on WCNC Plus. Want to get to some live scenes we've got going on now. I have requested that we go back to Miss Kilauea. This is a volcano eruption on the Big Island of Hawaii on the shore. Now, again, no threat to the public, but I wanted to come back out to this because it just looks so cool right now. This is really exciting for me. This never happens when I'm working. Carlene let us know that this happens. I believe this is the 30-something time.
It's the 35th is what AP News is reporting. So it happens quite often, but I mean, it's mesmerizing.
How cool is that?
It's really cool.
And it looks so different than, I mean, even just 30 minutes ago, last time we
Right.
checked in, we couldn't see any of this. You just kind of saw more of the smoke and kind of the sputtering up far away. But this is really cool to see it actively happening. It looks like a cartoon almost. It's so cool.
It doesn't look real, but it's very real.
Very real. But again, safe. Everyone's fine. As Carlene said, this is just a typical Friday morning. If you live in Hawaii, things happen. But everyone is just fine. And it's just kind of a cool sight to see happen live in nature. Look at that.
Look at that.
So other news we're going to get to out of Chicago now. If you've been with us the last couple of Fridays, you've seen multiple protests at an ICE detention facility in Broadview. That's just right outside Chicago. This is a huge facility, as you can see from this drone footage happening live. But this protest just really keeps getting bigger and bigger. They do this every Friday. Today they're holding up flags. You can see they're behind the barricades. The reason that this is really such a big scene here is because there have been multiple instances of officials clashing with the protesters. Last week we talked about a pastor getting hit with a pepper ball. We've seen people get detained. We've seen just really tense clashes between protesters and officials. And you can see that street even blocked off so that that protest can happen more peacefully. So all eyes have really been on Chicago in general in terms of immigration because President Trump has tried to make that the center of his immigration crackdown and just crime crackdown in general. Governor J.B. Pritzker, governor of Illinois, really not on board with that at all.
We heard him talk yesterday, actually.
Yeah. And he's made a couple videos in the same spirit of Trump where there's kind of a bit of humor behind it. So they're kind of playing the same cards here, which has been interesting to watch the back and forth. But this is really where I think the center of that big crackdown has been. Of course, at this point, multiple federal judges getting involved in what is allowed, what isn't allowed. But big thing happening here is that this protest just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Last week we had some lawmakers, Tammy Duckworth included, trying to get a tour of the facility to see what the conditions are like inside, and they got turned away. So definitely this is a scene we're going to keep watching. We'll come back to it as we learn more, see if we get some interviews down there. We want to also get back to our local news. One of the big headlines this week was CMPD releasing their third quarter crime statistics. Here, crime is actually down, specifically with violent crime. That is down a pretty big percentage. Now, that does not undercut any of these instances that we've had recently that have made a lot of headlines, but it is interesting to see CMPD say, you know, here's what's working, here's what's not. We're going to take a listen into that press conference from earlier this week.
Good morning. My name is Crystal Fletcher. I'm a lieutenant with the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department in the Public Affairs Division. Thank you all for joining us here today. Each quarter, CMPD conducts a public safety briefing to update the community on current crime trends and to talk about the proactive measures we're taking to ensure the safety of our residents. Today, we're releasing third quarter crime statistics covering January through September of 2025. Thanks to the collective efforts of our officers and our community partners, overall crime is down 8%. Violent crime has declined 20%. This is the third quarter in a row that we've seen that downward trend. Violent crime includes homicides, rapes, robberies, aggravated assaults, which include shootings. One of the most encouraging trends within this category is a 24% reduction in homicides so far this year. There have been 62 homicides in the first 3 quarters of this year compared to 82 last year. While this is a notable decrease, 62 homicides are still too many. Disagreements should never end in tragedy. Violence should never be the option, regardless of your beliefs, your background, or your circumstances. Yet too often, reckless decisions end in tragedy, leaving families to grieve the loss of their loved ones. Our detectives remain relentless in pursuing justice on their behalf. Thanks to the tireless dedication of our detectives, 80% of homicides year to date have been cleared by arrest. Homicides will rightfully capture headlines, but they are only one part of the story. Property crime has also fallen 5% compared to the same time frame last year, showing progress on multiple fronts. Property crime includes burglaries, auto thefts, and larcenies. While these numbers are trending in the right direction, we know data alone can't capture the real impact crime has on victims and their families. If you are the victim of a crime, or you know someone who has been victimized, it can shape your perception of Charlotte, safety in Charlotte. In reality, overall and violent crime have both declined significantly. However, high-profile incidents and the influence of social media can distort public perception, making crime seem more prevalent than it truly is. Our goal at CMPD is to not only reduce crime, but to build trust by being transparent, sharing accurate data, and responding directly to our community's concerns. Safety just isn't about statistics. It's about how people feel in their homes, in their neighborhoods, and the places that they frequent. We take those feelings seriously as well, because Charlotte is our community as well. We remain committed to reducing and preventing crime, addressing ongoing challenges, and ensuring Charlotte remains a safe place for everyone. Our speakers today will dive deeper into the data and the strategies that continue to make a difference in our community. First up to speak will be Deputy Chief Jackie Briley. Chief.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. I'm Deputy Chief Jackie Briley. I'm over our patrol operations for CMPD. I'm here to say a few things, and then we'll answer any questions at the very end. On a daily and a nightly basis, our patrol officers respond to 911 calls. These calls can consist of emergencies, traffic concerns, violent and property crimes, as well as quality of life concerns in our neighborhood. Our officers are focused on keeping Charlotte safe, preventing and reducing victimization, and strengthening our bond between CMPD and the people who live and work in our community. Patrol officers are the most visible and the most vital part of our job. They're in our communities, they're building relationships, they're deterring crime, and they're providing services to our Charlotte residents. Every day, our officers intervene in minor and large disputes. They stop crimes in progress, and they prevent violence without it ever making the news. Year to date, CMPD's had over 700,000 911 calls, with over 400,000 police interactions. That means over 400,000 times so far this year, a CMPD officer has interacted with someone living, working, or visiting Charlotte. The proactive work done by our officers are reflected in our activity. Our officer-initiated efforts are up 18%. Our gun seizures alone are up 25%, with 3,167 illegal firearms seized so far. And additionally, our arrests are up 15%. While we consider these increases progress, we know violent and property crime continues to be on the minds of our citizens. Robberies and aggravated assaults, including shootings, can deeply impact a sense of safety in our neighborhoods. These crimes have lasting effects on our victims and the perception of crime in our city. Knowing the substantial impact of robberies and aggravated assaults, CMPD remains steadfast in proactively addressing these areas. The stats reflect a continued decline in these categories through the third quarter. During this period, robberies have dropped by 22% and aggravated assaults by 19% compared to the same time last year. These are the results that reflect consistent, behind-the-scenes efforts that make a real impact. While these numbers we share today reflect our entire city, spanning all 13 divisions and our airport, we recognize the recent events, mainly in our Central Division, have captured national attention, shaping the perceptions of safety in our city. Our Central Division, which encompasses Uptown, covers 4.2 square miles. That's less than 1% of our entire jurisdiction. We recently spent some time in our Central Division during a community walk the block event. We started at around 11:45 p.m. and went to about 2:30 a.m., checking lighting, discussing concerns with some of the community members, and highlighting the great work being done by our officers and our partners. That experience reaffirmed how making proactive policing and community engagement are making a real difference. Building on that energy and recognizing that violent instances and disturbances sometimes can occur in our busiest entertainment areas, we took some steps to re-implement our entertainment district unit and a new initiative created by the Central Division, the Crown Initiative. You may have heard about some of these initiatives at last week's Center City Partners press conference, but I'll touch briefly on them today as well. Our Entertainment District Unit, or EDU, is a specialized unit that's going to focus on making Uptown and South End nightlife safer. This unit works during peak days and nightlife hours, ensuring high visibility and policing around our bars, our nightclubs, and our major venues. The EDU focuses on building strong partnerships with our bar owners, our managers, and our security to prevent incidents before they occur. For us, this is shifting from a reactive approach to a proactive approach, and also having a mindset of holding these stakeholders accountable for what occurs on their properties. With only 11 days of operation, our EDU so far has conducted 43 traffic stops, made 16 arrests, seized 6 firearms, and 284 grams of illegal narcotics. That's in 11 days. The Crown Initiative is a Central Division focus on high-impact effort through increased police presence, strict enforcement, and close collaboration with our community partners. The approach will balance accountability, compassion, and enforcing quality of life laws such as illegal street vending, disorderly conduct, and public disruption, while also connecting those in need with resources like our CARES team, Roof Above, and Hearts for the Invisible. The Crown Initiative is a collaborative effort with specialized CMPD units, the District Attorney's Office, and code enforcement. Our goal at CMPD is to restore public confidence and reduce crime and reinforce a sense of safety for our Uptown and South End communities. In fact, this is our goal across our entire city. To support these goals, a public safety task force was comprised with city leaders, Center City Partners, and was formed to address some of our Uptown concerns. This is a working group that works collaboratively toward the shared goal of reducing crime. I want to acknowledge some of our members are here today to support us. Thank you for being here. One of our patrol operations' top priorities going into our recent summer months was to strategically reorganize our crime reduction units, otherwise known as our CRU. Previously, they operated in individual divisions, but we decided to combine those resources to create a stronger level of service. We're deploying these units across our city to address our crime trends and our needs. This reorganization and deployment strategy started on July 5th, and we're showing strong results. Our Southeast Service Area, CRU, has recently been deployed in our Central Division to assist with our efforts. As part of these efforts, this team has conducted 519 traffic stops. Since July 5th, they made 144 arrests, seized 112 firearms, along with 4,785 grams of illegal narcotics. Again, that's since July 5th. These numbers are only for the Southeast Service Area. That covers Central Division, Providence, Eastway, Independence. This is an impressive accomplishment with less than 100 days. Sergeant Todd Martin will come shortly to share a little bit more information on our successes for the entire city in a moment. At CMPD, we continue to find innovative, effective ways to deploy our resources. We're listening to the community. We're collaborating with our community partners to ensure a safer Charlotte. CMPD is fully engaged in protecting our community. Our officers are working with dedication and purpose every day across our city. Oftentimes, our officers are called on to be everything to all people, including mediators, social workers, mental health assessors, while trying to do the job that they actually signed up to do by being peacekeepers in our community and protecting those in need. Sergeant Todd Martin will discuss our CRUs.
All right, you've been listening into the CMPD presser on the third quarter crime reports. Crime is down this quarter so far. We're going to take a quick break, but there is more speakers, so stick with us. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, 10:55 here in the Live Impact studio. So we've only got a couple minutes left. We're going to fill it with this CMPD presser and an update on the crime statistics from the last quarter.
My name is Sergeant Todd Martin. I currently serve as a sergeant over the Southeast Service Area Crime Reduction Unit. Crime reduction units, or CRUs, play a vital role in CMPD's work to reduce violent crime. These units work persistently to identify target high crime areas, reducing victimization and creating a safer community. As you have heard already today, overall crime is down 8%. Violent crime is down 20% for the third consecutive quarter. These are positive strides we are proud of and something the city should be proud of as well. As Deputy Chief Briley noted, CRUs have made a positive impact in these efforts. Since the reorganization of CRU in July, teams across all 4 service areas have made over 1,256 traffic stops, 450 arrests, seized over 282 illegal firearms, and approximately 36,530 grams of illegal narcotics. That amount equates to over 80 pounds. Their actions are undoubtedly saving lives. In July, during a target enforcement deployment at a nightclub known for past violent incidents in the Uptown District, CRU officers observed an illegal narcotics transaction in the venue's parking lot. Officers detained the suspect in the transaction, Jamari Lyles, a convicted felon for first-degree attempted murder. In a probable cause search of the vehicle, officers located and seized approximately 22 grams of suspected fentanyl pills and an illegal firearm. Imagine how many lives could have been saved by these, could have been destroyed by these deadly pills or an illegal weapon. Lyles was charged with the following: possession of a firearm by convicted felon, trafficking by fentanyl by transport, trafficking fentanyl by possession, and resisting delay obstructing an officer. In another recent case from July, our CRU officers conducted a traffic stop on a vehicle in the area of North College Street and 9th Street in the Uptown District of Charlotte. During a probable cause search of that vehicle, officers located and seized 2 illegal firearms, approximately 476 grams of suspected marijuana, and approximately 13 suspected oxycodone pills, and 1 bottle of promethazine hydrochloride. Upon further investigation, one of the seized
Some really interesting data there that we've been listening into from CMPD earlier this week on the crime statistics so far for the third quarter. Some good news. Crime is down as a whole, as well as violent crime in particular. We do want to get to Charlotte today in a few seconds here, so we're going to have to wrap up here. We'll be back, though, at 12:30 after the show with some more local and national headlines. Some really fun interviews scheduled for later, so make sure you join us back here around then.